Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Open Source Mentorship, and this is the third session that we're having in 2024, which is going to be on the occasion of World Press Freedom Day, which was on 3rd May. And we have an esteemed guest with us, Uzair Rizvi sir, and he is leading the world's largest election-related fact-checking initiative, which is supported by Google, with a background in journalism and a keen focus on fact-checking. Uzair sir brings a wealth of experience to the table. His work spans a wide array of significant events, from the Indian elections to the Sri Lankan bombings to coronavirus pandemic and the conflicts that happen in the Middle East. And then we have our founder of Open Source Mentorship, Saurabh sir, with us to join this conversation. And for all those of you who don't know him, he does Tech for Good, he does Tech for Good mentorship for a lot of engineering students and tech enthusiasts from all over the world. So welcome Uzair sir and welcome Saurabh sir.
Thank you so much, Ritisha, for a wonderful introduction. I'm so glad that you're taking over this part now. So wonderful. Uzair, welcome again. Thank you so much for joining us, taking out time, especially during this year. For those of you who, a lot of you might already know this, 2024 is probably the most momentous year in our modern civilization, because I think half of the world is going through elections, some 60 odd countries, including the biggest countries in the world like India, US, Nigeria, etc. So all of us are having elections. So Uzair's work becomes really, really difficult. And we are really happy that he could actually take out time to discuss these challenges with us. Uzair, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here and talking about fact checking and misinformation, something that during, as you had mentioned, where this is a big year for almost 60 or 70 democracies in the world. They are having the elections this year, and this also becomes very very important. How the information ecosystem is kept intact, kept free from disinformation, from misinformation, and the verified information reaches the large number of voters who are participating in the democratic process.
Absolutely. Let me now start the session. I'm going to share my screen, and Ritisha, would love for you to keep asking questions. Let's first understand what misinformation is, disinformation is, and any other kind of information which Uzair will tell us. Right? Let me just quickly share my screen. Now, why we share the screen, Uzair, is very simple. Because we want to write down things in a way which people can refer to. These notes then again will go on to our platforms, medium.com. We write some articles over there. We have a WhatsApp communication channel. We can share things over there also. So this is just to make things easier for the audience to understand. So Uzair, should we start with your personal journey first of all, like why you got very interested in this, and take it from there?
Sure. So yeah, so I, like as Ritisha mentioned in my introduction, so I primarily started as a journalist, so I have a proper journalism background, and I started my journey back in 2016, working with one of the largest English dailies of India, the Hindustan Times, and I worked with them as a multimedia journalist for 2 years. And then I moved. So I remember 2016, 2017, like a few years before the 2019 elections. And then there was a lot of, the misinformation had, I wouldn't say that, it started off in India, but, the world, because of the 2016 elections in US, we'd already seen the kind of misinformation there, which obviously that was probably the first time, that encapsulated my attention towards what's happening around the world in terms of how we're getting a verified information. And then of, uh, I happen to have a few trainings on fake news during that period. And then just a few trainings around that, around those period. And then eventually I moved to AFP, which is like the French news agency, the Agency France Presse. And they were setting up their fact checking, the fact checking unit in India a year before the Indian elections. And I kind of helped them to establish the fact checking presence in India. And it's been, I mean, that the journey actually into the fact checking began from there. And it's almost 5.5 years now, which, and I've been a part of this, is a great, I would call it a verified information ecosystem in India, not just in India, because I was also looking at misinformation from a South Asian perspective, from the Southeast Asian perspective as well, covering the entire region as well, and looking at uh, the misinformation on different social media platforms. And yeah, I mean, today I'm not working as an active fact checker as of today, but yeah, I'm involved in one of the projects which is looking at a lot of Indian election related misinformation. And yeah, yeah, that's been my journey. And like I'm fully focused as of now into this fact checking and misinformation space.
Wonderful, amazing journey. Such an organic journey, and I think, I hope, I mean, it has given you, the kind of satisfaction about the work that you've been able to do through this journey. Was it very natural for you to get into fact checking, and do you still enjoy doing it whenever you do it? And what's the future here?
Well, I think yeah, it was quite natural for me, to get into fact checking because I mean, I, I as I said, I'm primarily a journalist, so I did my education in hardcore journalism. So, the first basis of journalism is fact checking, that you verify fact while you're reporting. So for me, it came naturally, when we do reports, when we write news reports, that's also the very ethos of journalism, that you are verifying facts. If you are taking a quote from someone, you're trying to verify that. You're not trying to just, put fit in opinions of different people and then combine it in an article. You're also verifying facts, you're verifying information and everything. So yes, this came in naturally as well, as and I believe, for every journalist who differs them from fact checking, I think they should not, because every journalist is a fact checker, obviously. So from now onwards, we also give it a term, we call it, the digital investigation as well, because a lot of the fact checking happens on the social media platforms where a lot of digital tools are also involved. So we call it the digital verification as well. So I mean, there's also a new term that is involved for fact checkers who completely do fact checking on social media, like looking at tools like Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, and even WhatsApp and Instagram spaces. So what they are verifying is mostly the digital part of it. So we also call them the digital verification journalists. But yeah, I mean, they all come under the same umbrella of journalism. As journalists, we all verify facts. So yes.
Very nice. Now tell us, Uzair, like, so there is misinformation or fake news on every social media platform there is?
Yes, I mean, I think there's no social media platform, which has not been, I would call it, corrupted by the misinformation or the disinformation ecosystem. They all have been corrupted by it, and it's largely there because it's a user generated content. So every platform which gives you a space for all the users, to share their opinions. So there are chances that high chances of the misinformation, getting that into that sphere.
Right. And what about the internet in general? For example, if I find something or if I search something on Google, like most people do, do you think the results that Google throws at us, they also have fake news in it?
It depends. I mean, it also depends. Let's say if you're searching on a particular topic and it gives you, a lot of time certain news articles, especially on health. If we talk about health, because health is it's one of the biggest things that if we talk in terms of the India, I think it happens all over the world, but I'm just sticking it to like what we Indians do. Like, for example, if you're coughing or if you're having some mild fever, what we do, we become Google doctors. So we're there on Google, we're just searching, okay, I'm having these symptoms, what should I do? I mean, and then there are, there are thousands of websites which tell you both homeopathy and allopathy, and also the Ayurvedic therapies or treatments that you can do. Maybe do some turmeric thing or gargling. These sort of basic things that we ought to do on like when we find it on different websites. So I think yes, I mean the website also throws up a lot of misinformation. It then also the onus is on the person who's searching it, whether you're verifying it or not verifying it in the sense like you need to verify the sources. For example, if I'm getting something from a very prestigious or a reputed uh, medical website, or maybe like the we're getting something from the Harvard or from the government website, which is listing a methodology saying, this is the treatment for, just give an example, for cough or for fever, and these are the procedures that you need to follow. You also need to check the authenticity of the website. I mean, because that is also very important. As we all know, the internet has been penetrated by both good actors and bad actors as well. So we, as an individual, also have to verify what we're looking at.
So true, so true. Um, okay, so quickly, I would like you to define misinformation, fake news, disinformation. Or are they interchangeable? Are they the same thing?
So fake news is what has become a popular term, which I mean, which has been there for a long time, but largely emerged after the 2016 US elections, when the former US President Donald Trump was using this term in his election rallies quite a lot. But misinformation and disinformation are like two different things. So anything which is uh, not deliberate. Like for example, I received a WhatsApp message, and without verifying and without any malicious intent. So my WhatsApp message reads, you know, consuming this number of fruits on this particular day would cure cancer. I'm just saying, just giving an example. So without any malicious intent, with a good faith, I thought, okay, this could be important for the other bunch of my friends. So I just, moved it to other people, just forwarded it to them. That is misinformation. When I'm sharing the unverified information without any malicious intent, where I don't know whether this is true or not, this is misinformation. Disinformation is largely I receive a message or I created a message and I know this is fake, and I'm specifically sending it or forwarding it to your user with a malicious intent, with an intent to cause harm. So that is disinformation. So this is like, and fake news is like a popular term under which both misinformation and disinformation comes. But yeah, largely we define misinformation as something uh, which is done without a malicious intent, without an intent to cause harm, and disinformation is, a message or something is being shared or created with a malicious intent, with an intention to cause.
Hmm. Okay. And which do we see mostly today?
Today, I think misinformation, because I mean, a lot of people don't really know what they are seeing, what they are, especially if we talk in terms of WhatsApp messages. If we see WhatsApp, I mean, when we all receive a messages, we don't really get time to verify that, and we don't really know the potency of it being causing a harm or it being true or not. We just forward it. I mean, that's, even WhatsApp has, put a limit on forwarded messages, but as of now, because we are in such an information ecosystem, that whatever we see on social media, we just want to venture it out to other people. Like we want to spread it as quickly as we want. So this is, I think, misinformation, because a lot of users still don't know whether that information, and they are doing without any malicious intent. So misinformation is still uh, ruling. If I would call it, if I would, divide it in section wise, in WhatsApp, there's largely misinformation. But
Hmm.
if you look at social media accounts like Facebook or Twitter, X, I think disinformation is also catching up, especially during the elections as well, because a lot of bad actors come in play and they know the kind of network that they are creating. So, yes.
Okay. And fake news can be both, right? Misinformation and
Yes, fake
disinformation.
news is just a common term that can be used for both.
Hmm. So, what exactly is the purpose of spreading disinformation during elections?
I mean, it could be anything, obviously, as we know that elections are a big thing in anywhere in the world. I mean, they define the democracy. So you you don't really know that. It could be, like manipulation of public opinion, political propaganda. I mean, uh, political propaganda, which actually aims to manipulate public opinion by presenting biased or misleading information, also to influence people's belief and behavior. So this is also, one part of misinformation. And disinformation could also be spread to also, create an erosion of trust in media and and it's also a threat to democratic process as well. So if someone is creating misinformation by intent of, sharing it during election, so obviously one of the key reason is to uh, influence people's opinion. That the voting pattern might change. They might get influenced before the election. Especially, like, I'll give you an example of what happened. I mean, we saw in India as well, but this was just in Pakistan election. Like, this was just a day before voting, where a deep fake video of Pakistan leader Imran Khan comes out, and his other party members as well, saying, please don't vote for us. Just this is just the day before voting, a deepfake video and an audio comes in for all the political leaders of PTI, saying, please don't vote for us because as our party is not decided not to contest in the election. So see, this is actually a disinformation, done with a malicious intent to influence people's opinion. And by the time the PTI came up with a fact check, saying, this is false, this is not done, I feel, they it would have created some harm, because that message, that video would have traveled faster than the speed of the sound or speed of the light in WhatsApp groups and social media messages. And by the time the verified information came in, a lot of people would have already gotten influenced by that.
So, what you're saying is the cure for such disinformation campaign might still not be able to completely get rid of all the harmful impact that it causes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. In any particular numbers or statistics around this, that even after the verified information came, the harm was already done, people had already changed their minds, like, what is the success percentage, because that might be an incentive for people to start spreading disinformation for money or something like that.
Yes, I think there is this thing with disinformation. We, as fact checks, in the fact checking ecosystem, we've all discussed this. That we actually call it that if a fake news spreads 10 times, the fact checking or the verified information would only be spread or shared, 2 to 3 times. So basically, the misinformation or the disinformation is spreading more than, it's almost 7 to 8 times higher than the verified information. So social media platforms are indeed, like, I think, have played a significant role in the rapid dissemination of fake news, because of their wide reach, I think, and ease of sharing. algorithm amplification of engaging content as well. Also, it starts off with an emotional appeal. The misinformation, if you see it, often exploits emotional triggers such as fear, outrage, or confirmation bias, making it more engaging and shareable than factual information. And people also are more likely to share the content that evokes strong emotions, even if it's inaccurate, leading to the rapid spread of misinformation. For example, during the pandemic,
Hmm.
if we go back, 3 years, 4 years back, there were a lot of misinformation there around health. Okay, gargling with salt water might cure COVID, and different like it would say gargling with turmeric water, or eating this, or breathing like this, or having this medicines, or remdesivir will cure COVID, and different sorts of misinformation. And we were receiving these messages, and a lot of the people were just forwarding it because they had an emotional fear, and also the fear of also had a psychological fear, and they thought that sharing this will be helpful for others as well if they employ or deploy these tactics. This could actually save someone's life. I would call it also, if you look at the family WhatsApp groups, when we talk about the emotional appeal, I
Hmm.
think the biggest misinformation, I'm not calling it disinformation, but the biggest misinformation comes from the family WhatsApp groups, where you receive a lot of these emotional kind of messages. Maybe there are some messages, if you like this Facebook post, that person will get 1 rupee, and then you'll be blessed. And if you eat this something will happen. And if you pray this specific prayer, you'll be blessed. These sort of messages that do come out from the family WhatsApp groups as well. So these are all emotional appeal, because the family, they all care for you. They all are emotionally attached to each other, and they all want, if some message has come to them, which says, something good will happen, or something good will happen if you do this or if you do that. So they want to they want to ensure that it reaches to all their family members, to all the people whom they love, whom they are concerned about. So if you look at in terms of misinformation, family WhatsApp group is also quite vulnerable to all these things. Also, other thing is a confirmation bias as well. Like, social media algorithms personalize contents based on user preferences and past behaviors, creating filter bubbles, where people are exposed to information that aligns with their existing beliefs and perspectives, which I mentioned. If you have a belief, let's say on Ayurvedic remedy rather than the allopathy, so you would only see if you're searching something on social media, or on or on search engines, so you would only see the personalized content based on that. And it will eventually happen that you might be a part of certain WhatsApp, the similar WhatsApp group, where you could be sharing, the similar kind of information as well. So, and also this is, I mean, so we also call it these echo chambers as well. Social media platforms facilitate the formation of echo chambers, where users are surrounded by the like-minded individuals and insulated from diverse viewpoints. In these echo chambers, the misinformation can actually circulate unchecked, further reinforcing false beliefs and undermining the dissemination of facts. Some things, which happen in these family WhatsApp group, or like something which is based on my user preferences and past behaviors as well. So
Yeah,
this also becomes the echo chambers.
exactly. I was going to ask, like, this is how echo chambers are formed.
Yes.
Um, right. Now, so since and there have been studies since 2012, on social media platforms, especially Facebook related platforms, and that negative news spreads much faster than positive news, because it is more engaging, as you rightly said. It quickly triggers your negative emotions like fear and guilt, or all those other wonderful things, and that is why you want to share more of that.
Yes.
And in the election year, during the elections, this can all be turned into a way of actually influencing people's behavior to vote for the other party, right?
Definitely. I mean, if you see, emotional appeal is one of the biggest reasons. If you look at that, and it actually influences a lot of political decisions as well, like influence voters. I would rather say that. Emotional appeal, as in, if you vote for X. I mean, and it could come out of both psychological, sociological, and religious biasness as well. When you have politicians making emotional appeals, saying, that in terms of religion, invoking religious sentiments as well. So if you have, these kind of messages on social media, which, contains a religious sentiments, that also, draws a lot of appeal as well. And it tries to influence voters. So it could be false, it could be true, but the thing is that, it does invoke your emotional sentiments, and then you don't think rationally in that sense. Yeah, you're not thinking, looking at all the objectivities or all the reasons for to vote for a party or B party. You're mainly getting influenced by what emotional appeal or what religious appeal or psychological appeal that certain party or that certain message is invoking.
I'm going to ask one last question, then I'm going to ask, Ritisha to ask her questions, and probably Navya and Pratik, who are in the background, they might also have some questions. With relation, so Uzair, recently, just as you pointed out, WhatsApp groups, there are family WhatsApp groups, there are WhatsApp groups of alumni. So all my batchmates from college, right, we have WhatsApp groups, and in that there is continuous discussion about politics, especially this year, right? Now, sometimes what happens is, and we've seen this happen a lot actually, that there is somebody who is actually going to provide some verified fact-based information, all right? And usually verified fact-based information comes from certain media outlets, because the media outlet itself has been, I would say the image has been criminalized. Ki,
Mhm.
Boss, this is fake news or whatever it is. The others will just, without even looking at the facts of it, they will just reject that piece of news because it comes from a certain media outlet.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is so in the election year, yes, there is disinformation against other political views, parties, and so on. But what I have personally seen is that there is a lot of disinformation targeting certain media outlets themselves. And since you work with international and national media outlets, is there a dedicated way of, is there a dedicated campaign against media outlets also, or journalists for that matter?
I mean, I think I would start off with the question, whether the people are willing to take, reliable information or verified information or not. I think yes. First of all, I would say I'm just adding a question, answering it, and then coming to your question. The people still want, there is a still a desire for reliable information within the individual, and all the surveys and studies have indicated that majority of the public values and trustworthy news reporting. They still trust on it. People rely on media to provide them with information that is factual, balanced, and credible, especially on issues of which are public importance, such as politics, health, economy. Access to reliable information is essential for making informed decisions and understanding current events, participating effectively in democratic process. However, I agree with you that there's a perception, there's a notion against certain media is created, even despite the fact that they are providing verified information. It also comes from confirmation biases. Audience may gravitate towards media outlets that reinforces their existing beliefs and perspectives, leading also to the proliferation of echo chambers and filter bubbles. And this can also create, an environment where misinformation and partisan narratives thrive, further polarizing public discourse. So lack of media literacy is also, I think it's also one of the aspect that plays into it. mind as well. Many individuals may lack the critical thinking skills, and media literacy is necessary to evaluate information which is critically and discern the reliable sources from unreliable ones. This can also make them susceptible to misinformation and manipulation by the biased and unworthy media outlets. So if somebody is sharing misinformation from a particular media, sorry, somebody is sharing verified information from a particular media outlet. So one of the things is that, they already have a preconceived notion about that outlet, saying, okay, this only verifies certain sections of the society, or this only, panders towards the certain sections of the society. Also, a lot of people who think, if a organization is being, or a news organization is being critical of a government, this is wrong. Although if we look back at the history of press, because since we are talking about, the World Press Freedom Day, we are just talking about it a day after, and yesterday like was the World Press Freedom Day. So we would also like to go back to the concept, saying, the media should be critical of the government. I mean, I'm not saying critical in a negative way, but in a positive way, that media is, as we call it, if yeah, since India is a democracy, and like there are other democracies who are undergoing elections, so media, we call it as a fourth pillar of democracy. So the concept of press has always been to question the government, whether it goes against the government, or it goes, whether it is pro or anti-government, that is a different question. But the press largely is there to question the government. And when the stories or the verified information that's often comes in, or sometimes comes in, which basically says the government is not telling the truth, or the government is sharing unverified information, that also uh, triggers some sections of the society which actually think the government cannot be questioned. So I think this is a very wrong concept. This has to be changed as well. And in terms of media, when we are reading the news reports as a user, this is why I also say that media literacy is also quite important. And this is not just the job of media. This is not only just the job of media. There's also the onus is on everyone who's reading that article.
Mm.
I know we don't have the time to verify each article that we are consuming, or each news story that we are consuming every day, but at least if we are reading any verified information, I think we have to read it with not with a myopic view. We have to read it with a view that whether the information, and we should also apply our critical thinking as well, whether the information that I'm reading from this particular media is true or not, whether he is giving me certain facts or not, because he will only give you facts. He is giving he that organization is giving you facts based on the false claims that have been made on social media, or by any politicians, or by any political party. So there are two sides of it. You look at those claims, okay, these are the claims that this person made, or this political party made, or someone shared on social media. The other side is you look at the facts, whether those facts are correct, and they are satisfying my conscience, and they are exactly targeting the misinformation in a way which was developed. So
Mm.
also I think this comes from this philosophy as well. And people should be, as of now we see a lot of WhatsApp groups. I understand your question as well, because it happens with me as well. When I was working with an international news agency, a lot of people had that preconceived notion that no, international media, they are only meant to criticize the government because that's their agenda, and this is what they are. But I mean, this is the basis of the journalism, that you don't criticize the government, but you question them. If
Mm.
something, because we've all seen during the emergencies, like we've all heard of the stories, and we've all heard of the stories before the pre-independence era, that like a lot of certain reportages and media have created a change in a positive way. And even a lot of government, if you go to some state governments, if you read, I'm talking about some like the basic issues. Let's say if there's a image, if you know if a traffic signal, or if there's a traffic jam in a certain street, and there's a report on that on the front page of a news daily, even the government acknowledges it, because the government also takes the feedback from the media through these reportage as well, and then based on the feedback they also acknowledge and they also rectify themselves. So I think people shouldn't get over the board when uh, a government is questioned, because this also gives an opportunity to the government or to somebody who's spreading misinformation to rectify himself, to correct himself.
Yes, yes. Do you think like how it happens in the States? I mean, I don't have a lot of knowledge about it, but what I've observed so far is that there are news agencies or media outlets which have clearly identified themselves as belonging to a particular side, political side, right?
Mhm.
Right wing, left wing, Democrat, Republican, and so on. Do you think that gives the media outlet a free pass, to criticize the other side without any fact or reason, and because that is what their audience wants?
I think yes. I mean, even it happens in India. I mean, let's. I mean, it happens everywhere. So I'm not going to shy away from the fact, that it's not happening in India as well. But there are reasons to it. I mean, it could be commercial pressures. Many organizations may prioritize rating, clicks, advertisement revenue over the quality and the accuracy of their reporting.
Hmm.
Still, as of now, still sensationalism, clickbait headlines, and partisan bias can undermine the credibility of news content, and which also erode the public trust in media. Um, the lack of media literacy is also one of the things. Yes, the media has, to a certain extent, has taken sides as well, and this we can see in India as well. But it also, I mean, I I don't want to go into the the
Yeah.
complexities of it, but I think one of the reasons could be the commercial pressures, which I think is also one of the driving factors for a lot of media outlets as well, because it, certain certain media outlets might have an ideological or a religious obligation as well, because I'm just saying, give an example. Let's say a certain a news channel or a news website is belonging to a certain political or a religious ideology, then they will be, they are bound to uh, produce or content which panders to one side of the community, and definitely their content will also be in a way against the other community or the other side of the section as well. So this is quite common, yeah. But the major driving factor would still, I'll still think, the commercial pressures would be, because it could be anything. I mean, it could also be a media outlet may be donating to a political party, so they don't want to, report against that. So I mean, the commercial ties with the political party could also be dependent on what they are reporting as well.
So now I'm going to hand it over to Ritisha before I consume all the time with my questions. Ritisha, any questions that you would like to ask before we move on to the technological side of things? Because Uzair works with Google and a bunch of other, tech based organizations which are helping in fact checking. So let's go and get to that also.
I had just one question. My curiosity bent towards the fact that there are a lot of even a lot of content creators on a lot of social media channels who are uh, you know like talking about a certain political party or supporting a certain political party without facts. And how does that, because again they are so called influencers and they influence a lot of opinions, just like Uzair sir said. So how does that spread misinformation or disinformation uh, in today's time?
Yes, I think, a lot of us now consume information from content creators as well. Like we go on YouTube, we like to listen to what they are saying, and they are also making an opinion as well. They are a lot of content creators just give an opinion without giving verified information. Some are giving facts as well. Some of them do uh, kind of do an analysis of what is happening with each fact, and they're trying to fact check everything, even on while doing their while doing their videos, on making their videos on YouTube or other social media platforms. But I mean, as I said, there could be just an ideological bias or a political bias, uh, because I'm not sure. I don't know the economics of the content creators, if they have um, any economical partnership or any commercial partnership with any political party. We don't really know about that, but it could just be a political bias or an ideological bias towards a certain party as well. And also, what I feel like that, a lot of content creators in past few years have just sprung up on social media, and they are sharing anything and everything just based on like the WhatsApp messages that when we see on our WhatsApp groups, or we see the messages on social media. For example, if I'm part of a lot of political and family WhatsApp groups. Tomorrow, I could just open my, podcast and start just reading out messages from my WhatsApp groups as well. Or probably I could just start a podcast, sharing the opinions of what the messages I'm getting on WhatsApp. So I think this is also very important that they're not verifying it. I think, this is the onus is also on them as well, because a large number of people listen to them. They spend a lot of time consuming the information that comes from these content creators. So I honestly think that content creators should be more careful. Like those who are not, I mean, they should be more careful in trying in sharing the information when they are sharing it with the people, or when they or even when if it's a podcast which you have where they invite guests. A guest, a lot of times you see that person can say anything, and the host is just acknowledging the fact even that information is not verified, it could be false. So this chit chat or this podcast, what they do should also be based on the fact, let's say if they are asking questions, so they should have all the verified information before those questions, anticipating what this person might say. And probably they should have this concept of verifying that if for example, if I'm saying something wrong on a podcast, so my host should immediately correct me if I've said something wrong factually. I mean, I'm not saying there should be an opinion. I mean, there could be a difference of opinion and or uncertain ambiguity towards certain topics. But if I'm giving incorrect facts, or if I'm saying something incorrect, then that the onus is also on the host, to correct me with the verified information or with the verified facts.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think most of the content creators who have sprung up is because of the demand for such content. And of course, that demand is fueled by the same echo chambers that I need to hear the message again and again in a different perspective. So that demand is also there, and so on. I wanted to know, Uzair, like once you do fact checking of any information, whether it is coming from media outlets or social media or content creators, is there a tag, is there a star, is there a symbol which is attached to that content on top of it by the platforms that this is fake?
So, so when I worked with AFP, so AFP had a partnership with Meta, Facebook, which is, so if you see in the past 3 or 4 years, or I think it's more than that, I think more than that, Facebook has a label over certain content which says, this content has been verified by three PFC partners, or so they attach a label to it. So let's say if I've verified a content which was a video on Facebook, I did a fact check, and I submitted it. So this is part of the 3 PFC partner which Facebook has with all the, like, not all, but most of the fact checkers in India and throughout the world. So this is like one of the biggest partnerships with fact checkers, which Facebook is allowing the fact checkers to verify the content on both of its platforms, Facebook and Instagram. So in last few years, whatever misinformation which is there on Facebook and Instagram, and it is which is verified by these meta partner fact checking organizations. So Facebook has started to apply labels that it's a gray label, and it says that you may want to read it, or I think they might have changed the language, but like it's a gray label on an image, on a video, that you may want to read or this information is false, and you may want to read a fact check around it. And then when you click on it, so it gives you all the fact checks which some organizations might have done around that video. So this is also one of the good steps that that, and even if you see on Twitter, X, you see a lot of these labels where it says manipulated content or manipulated information under a particular tweet as well. So I think the tech companies have also realized that they have to be a part of the ecosystem in verifying or in getting the information verified, because they are like the biggest, as in like the players, where the UGC, the users share anything and everything, and which it comes on to their platform. So the onus is also on them, that how do they filter their platforms without curtailing the freedom to express your opinion, without curtailing the freedom to post anything. They are thinking that the information that you're getting on through this social media platform should also be rectified or should also be corrected.
And you think YouTube also does something similar? YouTube, Twitch, Discord server, Quora. Do you think these guys are also doing it?
No, I've not worked with Quora and Twitch, so I can't really comment on that. But I think YouTube has not done it the similar way. But I know for a fact that they are also doing a lot of content uh, mod moderation and monitoring as well when it comes to the misinformation. Because I think if I can remember, they during the pandemic as well. A lot of misleading videos or misleading prescriptions from the quacks, or from anyone, for example, from anyone who just making a video saying this will cure COVID and all those things. I think those videos were brought down by YouTube. This happened during the pandemic.
And this is happening algorithmically or by reporting by people like you. Like you tell YouTube that, okay, you have to bring this down because it's wrong, or is it happening algorithmically
No,
in terms
so Facebook. On Facebook, I would say that it's happening. I know for Facebook because I worked with them. So for Facebook, I could say under this 3 PFC partnership is like uh, the algorithms is shared by the fact checkers that show that this content is getting viral. It doesn't really say this is a false content or this is a true content. It just says this is being shared a lot, because in general, the misinformation has a capability and the potency to go viral. So they would just tell you that this is being shared a lot, or this is being shared 10 times or 20 times, and then the fact checkers come into play. They look at that video, they verify that content, and then they submit it to Facebook saying, we verified this content, and here is the fact check. So both the algorithms and the fact checkers work together. And also, it's not every time the algorithm is there to help the fact checkers. A lot of monitoring also happens, because I remember when, like, even today, like when we look at misinformation, so we are monitoring a lot of pages and groups on social medias. So is on Twitter, you look at you monitor the hashtags. If there's a breaking news, you try and monitor the hashtags, if there could be any potential misinformation around it, or even on Facebook over the years, a lot of fact checkers whom you speak to, they would, say that, we monitor certain groups or we monitor certain pages, which we know are, they have a habit of sharing misinformation or disinformation. So it also comes from monitoring as well. And I used to monitor a lot of pages and groups as well. And if I would see something from that page or from that group, I would immediately do a fact check and then submit it to Facebook, and then Facebook will take it.
So now, Uzair, everyone is now very, very familiar with the term AI. Most of them don't use it or know how to use it, but everyone knows AI is there, right? How much of AI is there in the work that you do on both sides? The people who spread the disinformation and people like you who do the fact checking. Are you using AI tools or not, or what kind?
I think AI has become like I would say, the everyone. So this happened 2 years ago when I was in a conference. People, so in India, I mean, it was not related to election, it was just related to AI and chat GPT. And that was probably one of the first kind which happened in India. And people were so fascinated. And ever since then, AI is also it's become that cool new slang for the Gen Z as well, and for everyone, millennials and everyone. Now we've adapted all that thing. We think that if we add AI to something, it becomes certain very, very complex, very, very machine learning, or uh, this is like a very complex terms, and it's quite niche as well. And this is where it places us. But AI, I think not everything is AI generated. I still think, the misinformation, I would say that when we call it deep fakes,
Hmm.
deep fakes has become that another term. So AI is like a big umbrella, deep fakes and these altered images and all these things, they come under it as well. So deep fakes, for example, if you just go back like 2 months before the beginning of Indian elections, there were a lot of talk.
Hmm.
And last year that Rashmika Mandana deepfake came in, and even just before the beginning of elections, there was two deepfakes targeting the two Bollywood actors as well. So there was a talk and a fear that this deep fake will penetrate into the democracy and they will hijack the elections, and every video that would come out would be a deep fake. But as of now, we haven't seen much, and like I really hope we don't. I mean, there's still 20-25 days to go for for the completion of Indian elections, but I still hope that there aren't many deepfakes, or we don't really get to that point, because that could be very nasty as well. But not everything is AI, So a lot of it is also, the fact check, the purveyors of misinformation or those who create misinformation, they're still using the basic techniques. They're still using that text which draws emotional appeal. They're still using, for example, the image could be of a temple, of a mosque, and then the text followed by by the image, the caption that we call it. It could be, it could be very manipulative, it could be misleading, it could be false. So
Hmm.
it's still the very classic way of confusing the voters, giving them, misleading the voters, I would call it. It's like very classic way of misleading the voters by using an image, or maybe by editing an image using the basic editing tools like the Photoshop and things. And even for videos as well, if we look at the videos, how I what during the elections, what I have seen, the kind of videos that have come across, it's mostly been done using the basic video editors. You're like, you clip one part of it from one video, you clip another part of it from another video, you join those videos, and it would make a different sense, and then you just share it in a very misleading way, and people would get confused. Now some people think this is AI or this is a deep fake, because the audio is saying something else, or the video is the context of the video is saying something. No, this is so AI or a deep fake is anything where the machine is involved, where I'm giving an input to a machine or to a software, and then it's giving me an output based on that. If I'm cutting from one video, I'm trimming the other part of the other video, or like I'm just trimming video and just putting it out there. That's not AI. That's not AI thing. So yes, and as a fact checker, we don't really rely much on AI tools as of now. Like I think I would call it like the biggest go-to tool for fact checkers still remains is the reverse search image,
Mm.
which is like which is there on Google and different websites like in the Yandex and different search engines. So reverse image search still, is and it's not. I mean, it's not something machine learning. It's not something that I'm just giving an input and it's giving a very complex answer to me. So we still rely on reverse image search tools like reverse image search. There's something tool like Invid which is used for videos, like if you want to fact check a video, so you add video to Invid tool. The tool would process and it would give you it would break the videos into images.
Mm.
Let's say if it's a 1 minute video, it would break that video into 10 different images, and then reverse image search again comes into play as well. And then there's one, and then you also use Google Maps, Google Street View. I mean, basic, that's what I'm saying. It's fact checking is not very complex. It's just that how you see an information or how you see a misinformation or a misleading content. It's also, as fact checkers, I think all the people who work as fact checkers, I think, and I in the beginning I said, all the journalists are fact checkers, but journalists, I think, have become different because they are always in the rush of putting out news first. That speed, that rush of putting out things first often causes a lot of mistakes, is often done without verifying facts, without verifying information. What we fact checkers do is, like, if you send me something today, Saurabh, I would, and you saying, this is happening, this is there. If I'm a normal person, if I'm like anyone in my family, or if I say, oh, Saurabh is my friend, he sent me this, let's forward it to 10 people because this is something important and this would, it might impact me and the other person as well. But what I'm as of now, as a fact checker, I would see, okay, Saurabh has sent me this. Like, why is he sending me this? Is this information is true or not? My brain would automatically, start processing questions, and then I start looking into it. Some answers can also be found. Let's say if you see a message on social media, you just need to go on Google. You may find verified information, verified news articles, proper news articles based related to that news information. So some answers can just be found if we do a basic process of just checking it on Google and seeing whether any news article has been done on this information or not, or has been done on this message which Saurabh or certain person has messaged me on WhatsApp. So we can do these basic things by ourselves. So it's not very complex. And as fact checkers as well. Now, definitely, when we come to deepfake, there's also a challenge for us as well when deep fake is created. So how do we use any tools? Because I know so deep fake is created. So you have AI generated images, for example, which are mostly created through three tools, which are Stable Diffusion, Mid Journey, and DAL-E.
Yeah.
And the AI, these are like the major tools which are being used to create, the AI generated. I'm talking about the images. And then there are certain tools which I don't want to put in
Mm.
here as well, but those can be used to generate or to create deep fake videos as well. So this is something which the purveyors of misinformation are already doing it. And as fact checkers, when we are looking at deep fakes, so obviously, first of all, I don't endorse any tool that we there is to detect deepfakes. There are certain tools, there are certain or free tools as well. There are certain paid tools as well, which to a certain extent can be used or are reliable to just say whether this information, whether this image is created through AI or not, or whether this video is created through AI or not. But again, what we fact checkers do, we go back to the basics. We still, for deepfakes, I think the human intervention, despite what the technology will be in the next year, 2 year, 3 years to creating deepfakes or to detecting deepfake, the human intervention will still have to be there, because as of now we still look at that image very carefully to see any visual inconsistencies, because the machine learning as of today, I'm just saying as of today, it's not 100% accurate. If you look at an image very closely, you may find certain visual inconsistencies, certain challenges in the image, which can be then used to detect whether this is, whether this is true or not, whether this is real human or AI generated as well. And then then, as I mentioned, the reverse image search, you do the reverse image search for that image as well. So obviously, I mean, there would be tools, and by the time, this all this AI thing would get complex, they might be more complex tools that might come in, but the human intervention will always be there. For
Mm.
example, uh, I'll just give a very quick example of me go to 2023, where I would say also was probably the kickoff for an AI generated image in India, when we saw the image of the Indian wrestlers who were protesting against a certain politicians, and they were detained. And then they were detained after the protest, and an image of them smiling in detention came out, that
Yes.
these wrestlers are smiling in detention, basically trying to malign their protest because it was against the sexual allegations, which is quite serious. So they were trying to malign the intent of the wrestlers, saying they are fighting such a serious allegation, and now they are smiling in the bus. That means their allegations are false. It's all false.
Yeah.
But a lot of fact checkers, fact check that content, and probably I was the first one to put it out saying, this is not a real image. And because I used a tool, but when I looked at in the image, my first question came in as a journalist. My observation skills came in that they are doing such a serious protest. Been fighting it for months, weeks against an important politicians, and such a serious issue of a sexual allegation. Why would they be smiling when they're detained? Like, do they want to discredit their own protest or what, or do they own this campaign against that person? So this was my first question,
Mm.
and then I looked at image very closely, trying to look at visual inconsistencies. Like, for example, one of the wrestlers, my first impression was, so one of the wrestlers who was smiling, she had a dimple on her right side in that image. So I looked all, like, at least 50 to 100, between 50 to 100 of her images on her social media and on internet platforms, just checking when she smiles, does she get a dimple on her right cheek? So that was my first instinct. And then I was able to make out, no, she doesn't get a dimple on the right cheek. That means an app or a software has been used to enhance her smile. So this was something, So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just coming back to the point, that AI will be there, but without human intervention,
Yeah.
we would still need human intervention for that.
Absolutely true. There, I mean, wonderful listening to you. I talk about AI a lot, and I say the same thing that without human intervention, AI is useless. So, thank you so much, guys. Any questions? Last questions, because I didn't even notice that the time 1 hour just flew away.
Yeah.
Any questions, guys, that you would like to ask Uzair before we conclude?
No, I just love the whole thing about that we talked about, that okay, deep fakes, and how Sir has said that okay, we don't have to blindly uh, take in the information that we take in, and we have to use our critical thinking skills and stuff to see.
Right. Well, I think her network
Yeah,
is
I mean, that's
bad.
one.
But yeah, Zaid, I do remember seeing this on your LinkedIn, feed when you had shared the deepfake image of the wrestlers protesting, and your logic and your reasoning behind it.
Mm.
And I do remember that. Um, Uzair, any concluding words before we, conclude this session? I'm pretty sure that in the future also we would be able to talk again. But any concluding words for today and for elections? For those who have not voted yet, like I have not, because the election has not happened yet. So.
Yes. I mean, so yeah, because I think I'll tell you the future. When I was doing a fact check, so I've just go back to in 2019. So when I was doing fact checking, I just started doing fact checking in 2018. So we were looking at 2019 general elections in India, and I clearly remember. So there was a lot of talk about how the fake news, this term came in the fake news, and everybody was, was being cautious of fake news, and everybody wanted to be involved in how fact checking it. So fact checking and fake news was things which were getting popular in India in 2018, and we were being cautious of that. And I remember just 2 months before the elections when that Pulwama incident happened, and then there was this dogfight between India and Pakistan, and even then there was a lot of misinformation on social media from both sides. So we were just getting adapted to that thing called fake news. And now, 5 years down the elections, people have, I mean, obviously, fake news is still the umbrella term, but now people are talking about AI, deep fakes, and what's the future of AI in fact checking and journalism, especially in addressing emerging challenges like cyberbullying and misinformation. Or probably people are like, I do these workshops, I do these trainings on media literacy as well. And people ask me, how AI can contribute and countering all these things. So I think one of the things that, I think in future, and even certain fact checking organizations. So there's a fact checking organization in UK. It's called Full Fact. So what they've also started doing is that they've started automated fact checking. You like AI algorithms which can analyze large volumes of data to quickly identify false or misleading information, which also can help fact checkers debunk misinformation more efficiently, and provide accurate information to the public. Also, I mean, AI can be used as in like detection of misinformation patterns, because a lot of times we see a pattern to certain misinformation as well. That uh, it, especially if it's towards a certain topic, and if you see towards a search, especially if you go on Twitter, you identify actors who are using the same hashtags. So I think AI in future can also be used to detect these patterns of misinformation spread across various platforms. Because as of now, earlier when WhatsApp in 2018 was a big deal, but still it was just eluded from, no, I wouldn't say eluded, but it didn't had much of misinformation. But now I think WhatsApp, the misinformation actually begins from WhatsApp, and then it goes on Twitter, Facebook, and other platforms. Although 6 years early, if we go back in 2018 when I was doing fact checking, I remember we would see misinformation first on Twitter and Facebook, and then it would go on WhatsApp. So the misinformation would generate from social media to these chat platforms, and now it's become vice versa. It begins from WhatsApp and it goes to social media. So there's also a misinformation pattern, which I think AI can be used to detect these patterns across various platforms by analyzing the user behavior, all like the content interactions that that they do. Also, AI could be used as for real-time monitoring as well. There are power tools which can monitor social media platforms, like to identify real-time emerging trends and narratives, like which we as fact checkers do all the time. We use certain tools, but they are not AI powered, but it's a lot of manual work it's a lot of laborious work that we as fact checkers do, identifying, looking at pages, going through those list of long pages on social media or some certain accounts again and again. So I think this is also, could be very important. Defect detection, that's what I said. There are tools. I'm not going to endorse that, but even those tools are not 100%, trained. They are getting trained on different languages as well, and on different kind of content. So I think this will take time before the deepfake detection tools gets better and better. But yeah, in future, it might, it might make, even with the human intervention, I would say that that these tools might make our work a bit more easier as well. And yeah, I mean, with the coming back to your questions, with election, I would obviously urge everyone, who's watching this video, who's going to be listening to a conversation, to please exercise your democratic right. You go out and vote and participate in the democracy. I mean, whether it's for A party or B party, I mean, it could be your choice, but still, the participation is also quite important as well. And during the elections, I mean, there's still 20, 25 days still to go. And I would suggest, if you're seeing any information, if you're seeing any information on social media, just please don't believe it as it is. You do your due diligence as well. Like, we all are, I know we don't have, sometimes we say, okay, we don't have time. Okay, if you don't have time, then please don't forward it. If you don't have time to verify information, then you also don't have time to, to pass that information to other people as well. So don't, if you're not sure about anything, don't forward it. Even I understand it, even if it, it triggers your emotional, religious, or psychological bias, but just read that message once again, and just also remember the consequences. If that information is incorrect, it might, it might create something very vicious, it might create something very bad as well. So just remember the consequences as well before sharing any message. And if it's a verified information, as I said to you, Saurabh, earlier as well, the fake news travel 10 times faster, and like the verified information is very below, is, very bottom at that chain of being shared or being spread. So if you're seeing any verified factual information, especially from the fact checking organizations which are there in India, who are doing tremendous work, especially with the elections, I think they are overworked and they are trying to provide you with all the verified information. So just try and read. I mean, don't go by the name of the organization. Just also try and read the context that they are providing. Like whether it, it also satisfies your conscience as well. If you see certain message on social media, whether they are factually, look at the facts. Don't, I mean, because I'll tell you, fact checks are not opinion. A fact checker does not give his opinion, because the guidelines that all the fact checkers that we follow, that all fact checkers in the world follow, who are, who abide by the IFCN, which is the International Fact Checking Network body, who abide by, most of the fact checkers in India are signatory to the IFCN Code of Principles. So they are not allowed to share the opinion. They are not allowed to share any biasness in the facts. It has to be just straight facts countering the misinformation. So read that, look at that, and you'll get a lot of answers to the misinformation which you saw on social media.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Uzair, it was a pleasure having you here and listening to you explain these things so articulately. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you so much for having me. It was really, like, I really enjoyed talking to you. I know, as I initially in the beginning, we were talking and saying, I'm quite busy with the election thing and all this, but this topic is so diverse, and this topic is so close to me that I love to talk on it. And especially with the kind of questions that you and your team came up with, they were very fruitful, they were very insightful questions, and I hope I was able to do justice to those questions as well.
Oh, no, absolutely you were. And hope to do similar exercises in the future also with you. Guys, if you're watching this and if you have any particular questions related to fact checking, related to fake news, deep fakes, or anything else, or maybe you want to connect directly with Uzair, we'll share his LinkedIn profile link in the description, and you can then reach out to him if you need his opinion or assistance. Well, hope to see you next time, and we hope to do this more regularly now. I know since January, we have not been able to do these things, hectic times, but we now plan to do more of these sessions and more of these topics. So if you have any topic in mind that you would like to know more about, where technology can be used to create tech for good, then please do let us know. All right. See you next time. Do vote, and hope you have a nice